let's try this again. Hopefully the sound will work this time. So we're simplifying radicals. Here you have the list of all the perfect squares. So 4 is a perfect square because when you take the square root of 4, you get 2. When you take the square root of 9, you get 3. And the reason why we're going to use all of those is to simplify the square roots. So the trick here, and I think that's the fastest way out of simplifying this thing, I need to figure it out if I can divide 24 by a perfect square, because I know I'll be able to simplify the perfect square and get it out of the square root. That's the only reason why I want to divide 24 by one of the perfect square roots, one of the perfect squares. So I'm going to try 24 divided by 4, because 4 is a perfect square. I'm not dividing by 2, I'm dividing by 4, because 4 is a perfect square. When I divide 24 by 4, I get 6. So I'm going to rewrite this. I'm going to rewrite as the square root of 4 times square root of 6, because I know 4 times 6 equals 24. And I can split that in two radicals, in two square roots. So I'll be able to simplify that. Now I know square root of 4 equals 2. So I take the square root of 4, I get 2. I cannot simplify square root of 6, so I leave that alone. There's nothing else I can do to simplify this guy, and voila, that's your simplified version. One way for you to check your answer is by putting that in the calculator. So when you go, you take the square root of 24, you get this crazy number. When you plug in your answer, you should be able to get the same crazy number. That means, yeah, they're the same thing, just written differently. This is the simplified version of the square root of 24. So that's a way for you to check your answer. Another one. So we're going to do square root of 60. I know you want to divide 60 by 10. 10 is not a perfect square. I know you want to divide 60 by 6. 6 is not a perfect square. So focus on the mission here. We need to divide by one of those perfect squares. And I'm going to try to divide that by 4, because I know it works. 60 divided by 4. And I know 4 is a perfect square, so I can simplify that. So I can rewrite square root of 4 times square root of 15. 4 times 15 equals 60. 4 times 15 equals 60. All right, now we simplify square root of 4. You get 2. You cannot simplify square root of 15, so you leave that alone. Therefore, this is your final answer. Another one. So I'm going to divide by the square root of 36. Now, sometimes you're going to divide by square root of 4, divide by square root of 9, divide. So you have to keep going. I just knew I could divide 108 by 36. And the more you do, the better you get at this. Don't think this is going to happen overnight. So 108 divided by 36, because 36 is also a perfect square. So 36 times 3. And you're like, where did you get 3 from? Right there. 36 times 3 is 108. 36 times 3 is 108. All right? All right. Take the square root of 36, you get 6. And then you have square root of 3. You can choose to put the multiplication sign between them or not. Your choice. Now, I have square root of 8 times square root of 6. The same way that I could open 24 as 4 and 6, I can go backwards, because when I have square root of 8, square root of 6, that doesn't help me. I can't simplify that. So 8 times 6 is 48. Now I can go ahead and rewrite square root of 48. And one of them should be a perfect square. So I'm just going to try 4, because I know 4 works. but I'm going to try a bigger square root. 16. 48 divided by 16. Ah, right there. So 16 times 3. 16 times 3 is 48. And 48 is the same as 8 times 6. Take the square root of 16. You get 4. You can't simplify square root of 3. There are different ways for you to get out of these. You're welcome to do it your way. You're welcome to do the tree factorization with the prime tree. Just get it somewhere. I just found that throughout the years, if you just try to divide by a perfect square, people get less confused. But if you're already good at some different way, go for it. Now, example 5. Whatever is outside the square root remains outside the square root. So you're going to multiply these two, and you're going to multiply these two. Whatever is inside the square root doesn't multiply whatever is outside the square root. Outside with outside, inside with inside. So 3 times 5, so you're multiplying. 3 times 5, you get 15. And then whatever is inside the square root, 12 times 6. 12 times 6, 72. Now we have to do the same thing that we've been doing for the other questions. The deal is you just leave that 15 alone. There's nothing you can do about that until the very end. So I'm going to simplify square root of 72. Just by looking at that, I know I can divide 72 by 36 and get 2. And 36 is a perfect square. So 72 divided by 36, I get 2. And I divided by 36 because 36 is a perfect square. When I take the square root of 36, I get 6. And then I have square root of 2 that I cannot simplify. Remember the invisible multiplication sign that we had there? It's still there. So now my final answer, I'll have to do 15 times 6 because they're both outside the square root. I get 90. And then there's nothing I can do about the square root of 2. So you leave that square root of 2 alone. Now you can go ahead and do IXL in Algebra 1, EE.1.